All right, let's talk about blood. But we're not just going to talk about it. We're going to take a journey through the literal river of life that's flowing inside every single one of us. Because it is so much more than just some red liquid. It's a complex, living system, a bustling highway of cells, and every single one of them is on a mission. So come on, let's dive into that river and see what's really going on in there. Just think about this for a second. Right now, you have about 5 liters of this incredible fluid pulsing through you. It's a huge part of who you are. So, what's actually in it? What makes up this vital river? Let's break it down. Okay, first things first, we need to understand the basic recipe. You see, blood isn't just one thing. It's what's called a suspension. It's a mixture of a liquid and a whole bunch of solids. And every single part has a critical job to do. Now, this might surprise you, but most of your blood, about 55% of it, is actually a yellowish liquid called plasma. The other 45%, well, that's what we call formed elements. And this is where our main cellular players live. You've got the red blood cells carrying oxygen, the white blood cells fighting off diseases, and the tiny little platelets that rush in to stop any bleeding. So, to measure how many of these cells are packed in there, scientists use a term called hematocrit. It's basically just the percentage of your blood's volume that's made up of red blood cells. You can think of it like the traffic density on that cellular highway. And doctors watch it really closely, because if you're dehydrated, your hematocrit goes up. Or hey, if you live at a high altitude, it'll be higher too as your body makes more red cells to grab that thinner oxygen. And you know that normal level can actually vary. On average, adult males have a hematocrit around 45%, while for females, it's a little closer to 42%. It's one of those key health indicators that doctors always check. So now that we've got the big picture, let's zoom in on the real hero of our story, the tireless worker of the bloodstream, the red blood cell, or as scientists call it, the erythrocyte. Its journey from birth to recycling is honestly a fascinating one. So where do these things even come from? Well, the whole process is called erythropoiesis, and it's like a super efficient assembly line running deep inside your red bone marrow. A stem cell gets its assignment, becomes an erythroblast, and just starts furiously producing hemoglobin. Then, and this is a crucial step, it literally ejects its own nucleus to make more room before it finally gets pushed out into the bloodstream to mature. And this is what you get, this really unique biconcave shape, kind of like a donut that's been squished in the middle, but not all the way through. That shape is absolutely perfect for squeezing through the tiniest little capillaries. And remember how it ejected its nucleus? Getting rid of that and other organelles means there is maximum, and I mean maximum, space for its precious cargo. And what a cargo it is. Get this, a single red blood cell is crammed with up to 300 million molecules of hemoglobin. Each one is like a tiny magnet for oxygen. It's an unbelievably efficient delivery system, just incredible. But, this life of non-stop service isn't infinite. A red blood cell works tirelessly for about 120 days. After traveling thousands of miles through your body, it gets old, it gets worn out, and eventually it gets pulled from circulation for retirement. But here's the really cool part. Nothing goes to waste. Specialized cells called macrophages swoop in, break the old cells down, and they recycle the iron and amino acids to make new ones. And the leftover bit? That's called bilirubin. It gets sent to the liver, put into bile, and is actually what gives feces its characteristic brown color. A complete cycle of life, death, and renewal. Now, red blood cells are not alone in this river. No way. They've got a security detail, an entire army of defenders known as white blood cells, or leukocytes. These are the guardians of your body. And this army, it's got 2 main divisions. You got the granulocytes, which look kind of grainy under a microscope because they're filled with these tiny sacs of chemical weapons. And then you have the agranulocytes, which have a much smoother look. So let's meet the team. At the top, you've got neutrophils. These are your most numerous frontline soldiers, just gobbling up bacteria in a process called phagocytosis, which literally means cell eating. How cool is that? Then you have lymphocytes. They're the special ops, creating antibodies and leading targeted strikes. Monocytes are the heavy-duty cleaners that turn into those giant macrophage cells we met earlier. Then there's the eosinophils, specialized assassins for parasites, and finally, basophils, which sound the alarm for inflammation by releasing histamine. Every single one has a very specific mission. But what happens when this perfectly balanced system gets disrupted? when that river of life becomes a source of conflict. Well, this brings us to blood disorders.
When it comes to red blood cells, problems usually come in two flavors: too many or too few. Polycythemia is when your bone marrow goes into overdrive, making so many red blood cells that the blood actually becomes thick and sluggish. And on the flip side, you've got anemia, which is a condition where your blood just can't carry enough oxygen to get the job done.
And anemia isn't just one single disease. It can be caused by a lack of iron or maybe a vitamin B12 deficiency. Sometimes the bone marrow itself fails, or it can be caused by sudden blood loss. There are even inherited types, like sickle cell anemia, where the hemoglobin protein itself is shaped all wrong, and that causes all sorts of problems. These symptoms, they're all directly tied to that lack of oxygen. It just makes sense, right? When your cells aren't getting the fuel they need, you are definitely going to feel it. This quote really captures that widespread effect it has on the body, making even the simplest tasks feel totally exhausting. And it's not just the red cells. The immune army can also have its own problems. Leukemia is this broad term for a bunch of blood cancers where the body just produces an overwhelming number of abnormal white blood cells. The very defenders of the body, unfortunately, become part of the problem. So you see, your blood is so much more than a simple liquid. It's a nonstop story of creation and service and defense and renewal, all happening inside you every single second of every day. And knowing just how incredible and complex this system is, well, it really makes you appreciate that river of life flowing within, and maybe makes you think about what it takes to keep it healthy and strong.